We didn't have running water before I put it on, but we have running water. We even have a little hot water tank to heat it, but we heat it through the wood-burning stove.
I said to the foreman, my name's John Cronin, I'm the Hudson Riverkeeper. You shouldn't be doing that. And he said, oh, you're the Hudson Riverkeeper? I said, yes. He said, okay, well, all right, guys, you want to start moving that stuff out of there? And I said, wow, boy, this is terrific. I gotta use this name more often.
And whenever it rains, the overflow from a lot of the sewage treatment plants gets into the river, and that then causes the coliform level to be too high to allow for safe swimming.
There's something to be said about the Hudson River. In fact, there's never enough to say about it. Ever since Henrik Hudson left his Half Moon's wake from lower Manhattan Island in the early 1600s, the river has been a way of life for millions of people. Most of the past 300 years along the east and west banks have been documented in the travelogues of those who sailed here, in ship's logs, newspapers, magazines, and more recently, film and videotape. There is great physical beauty here, but that belies some of the problems that have been caused by man. We are here to report on what is being done to make the river right again. We're going to meet the people who care and visit the piers and harbors and even the vessels that ply here. When we return, we invite you to join us on the river. On this, our maiden voyage presentation, we can think of no more qualified a vessel than one that typifies the boats that for so long sailed these special waters before the advent of the steam and motorized ships, the Clearwater Sloop. How many times have we read about its environmental impact on a public that had come to think of this river as a polluted pariah, to be avoided and scorned? How often have we heard of the Clearwater's influence on helping to change that perception, and in fact, to help clean out the toxins and stains of non-concerned government and industry, and selfish individuals. A concept born in the music and voice of folk singer Pete Seeger, and carried on since the mid-60s by those who volunteer and by those who dedicate themselves to the tenet that a healthy river breeds a healthy society. John Mylod is one of those people.
Clearwater has really meant people coming down to the waterfront in their towns and doing something about saving those waterfronts, and bringing people out onto the river on the boat, and really providing a platform, a classroom on the river that has given folks a real insight into what's going on in the river, both in terms of the actual daily activity in the river, but also in general, what's happening. Where does the river in their lives? What role does it play in their lives? And for many people, it plays a major role in their lives, whether they even realize it or not. It is a waste stream for many communities. It's also a supply for water for many communities. So you have to balance both, and you have to see what you can do to make sure that you're not dumping the kind of waste into it that we have for the last 50 years. And then plenty of people are now looking at the river as a water source, so it's even doubly important to do what we can to clean it up.
As executive director of the Clearwater organization, Mylod stopped by on this steamy Saturday in July to see that all was well for what is called a Clearwater transit from Poughkeepsie to Rhinecliff, a voyage that will carry Sea Explorers, a Boy Scouts organization from Beacon, some of their family members, leaders of the group, and a friend or two. That's in addition to a mix of a crew of 17 volunteer, part-time, full-time crew members under the supervision of Captain Kate Cronin.
Let me just say one more thing that I like to remind everyone is that the whole boat also moves. The people move on it, the sails move on it, and the whole boat moves. For an example, we have a wake coming our way. These waves are rolling toward us because the speedboat that just went by left the disturbance in the water, and I might yell out at some point, watch the wake. That means just sit down or hold on for a moment because we're about to rock. Other than that, this isn't a big race boat that leans way over like some of those pictures you see, and it's a stable platform. It's not going to be something that you need to hold on to much either. But those wakes can be pretty big.
Are you ready on the peak?
Ready!
Just tell me when to duck.
And are you ready on the throat?
Ready!
Okay, let's haul away the peak and haul away the throat.
It isn't long after we leave Poughkeepsie when everyone becomes a crew member and the sail is hoisted, all 3,000 square feet of it.
Hold the peak.
Hold the peak.
Okay, you can go on the peak.
Go on the peak.
We're looking at a mast that rises 108 feet above water and a sail that weighs 1.5 tons. The mainsail, or the mainsail, rises 70 feet into the Hudson Valley sky. Huge for a reason, to take advantage of light winds.
I was born, evil way, that's your part, all the way in South Australia, round Cape Horn. We're bound for South Australia, and all the way you road.
Hold the peak.
The topsail sheet slack.
Yeah. That topsail sheet is.
In the back.
One more day and my boyfriend.
Okay, go on the peak.
Pick it up, Bob.
Yeah.
Killer because the line has to run out. If your feet can stay on the deck and not even
A little bit faster on the peak.
Fellas, gotta get around here.
Back down.
Doug?
Just watch those telltales. Keep them head up.
In the old days, a sloop such as this one would carry cargo up and down the Hudson. Stone, lumber, cement, coal, crops, you name it. The Clearwater, though, carries a different load, but with some of the same problems of the past. And that's part of the attraction to Captain Kate.
Twofold, the people. When I finally realized it wasn't just the boats that I was seeking when I was working on boats, I always sought boats with large crews, doing a good program, bringing people together on the water, and realized that the kind of magnet this boat is for the people in the Hudson Valley is phenomenal. The Hudson from Manhattan to Albany, we have such a diverse group of people come aboard. That's what is the magnet for me on the Hudson. The second is the challenge of the inland sailing with shifting mudflats and shoals and winds, and how to use this boat the way perhaps these Hudson River sloops were meant to be used and maneuvered and sailed as efficiently as possible while they're sailing with a cargo back in the 1800s. Our cargo is people. It's very exciting to sail in these waters and to teach the crew and to have them learn from the boat and the winds and the water and the hills. It's more exciting than other places that I've been sailing, and a lot of the crew echo those sentiments too. We have very challenging days. We might go aground on some new mud flat that wasn't there last year and is there this year. We might have to drop the topsail immediately, drop all sail for a Hudson River squall that we know about these summers. Or we might stand here and bake like we're doing today with a lot of sun with a group of 50 people on board.
This sloop is basically exactly as they were years before the motorized boats came along. Is that the only real difference here, is that you do have an engine now?
We have an engine, and you hear a radio so that we can talk with the commercial traffic and be equally driving well defensively, because we know what's going on around us by communicating. Another difference I'm told is that our boom is 66 feet long, and I think that the river boats carrying cargo in the years past were 77 feet long, so add another 11 feet on that. We have more sail area with that. We could go a little faster and a little more longer downwind before jibing, but this boat is built to the specifications of both trying to be as much like a Hudson River sloop was, as well as meet the Coast Guard standards of a passenger-carrying vessel. We have bulkheads so that we cannot walk from the bow through to the stern in the case of a collision, and taking on water on any vessel today for passenger carrying, it's divided into compartments, so you can shut off certain compartments and all. So that's a structural difference. We didn't have running water before I put it on, but we have running water. We even have a little hot water tank to heat it, but we heat it through the wood-burning stove as well as through the engine and through electric. So ways to make the boat efficient for a crew of 20 to run these programs nonstop is what we aimed for, as well as trying to keep it a good working Hudson River sloop, as it was.
It's a peaceful voyage now that the snap of the jibe is out of the way and the weather brings a mild breeze to our backs. The sun comes in and out, and with it the heat and humidity. But there's always work to be done, especially for those who toil with the tiller. And who are some of these people anyway?
Well, the last couple of years I've been a school bus driver and solar engineer and a number of other things. I'm on my way to the Peace Corps right now. At least I'm trying to get in.
Whereabouts?
Well, I don't know exactly. It'll be probably in the South Pacific, but I don't know exactly yet. It's going to be in the health and nutrition field. That's what I'm shooting for.
How do you like this river?
It's beautiful. I'll probably come back here. I always like this.
How did it come about that you're doing this?
Oh boy, I've known about Clearwater for a long, long time, but never had any imagination that I would even be here. But I've been working in environmental education for a number of years, and just the combination of things happened that all of a sudden I was applying for a job to work on the sloop, and here I am.
The sights along the way tell of the great old days when mansions were lived in by the families of the very rich before they became tourist attractions or museums or just memories. The sights tell also of what is a great playground for pleasure craft, as the Hudson has been for more than 3 centuries. We see some problems caused by inattention or carelessness, and we come across a once busy Esopus lighthouse, now shuttered and listing, with its windows painted over, so as not to be so unkempt, here in the middle of Captain Hudson's great discovery.
I don't know a whole lot about it. The rumor that I've heard, which I like, and I like rumors, is that one night some folks in a sort of a vigilante act decided that the lighthouse was deteriorating and it needed a coat of paint. And so they went out and painted the lighthouse and didn't quite stop at painting the walls. And over the windows and such, they painted in painted in an illusion of windows and curtains and a cat in the window and window boxes with flowers and such. And as a result of that, I just really like the lighthouse a lot.
I heard from one authoritative mouth that it was Clearwater people that did the painting.
Ah, well, I think I know some of the individuals involved. And it wasn't an officially sanctioned Clearwater act, but I certainly support them.
It's a great river, this one, and always challenging, as we hear from one who has tasted other waters.
On this boat, up and down the Hudson and Long Island Sound and New York Harbor, but on other ships, I've been across the Atlantic a couple times and all through Europe and the Mediterranean and the Baltic, and I've gotten around a bit in the past couple of years sailing.
After all those other waters, what's the difference here in the Hudson?
Believe it or not, this is much more challenging sailing, much more interesting and fun because, well, there's other things happening in the ocean, but sometimes out in the ocean, you'll be on the same tack for days on end. You won't have to touch the sails or do much of anything but watch out for weather and stuff. Here, as you see coming up, there are all kinds of things to take into account, all kinds of traffic coming down, current going either way, to watch out for, coming up on islands and deciding when to tack and when to jibe. And there's a lot more to this kind of sailing than ocean sailing, except that in the ocean is when you can really get into bad weather and stuff, which isn't so much of a factor in here.
What do you prefer?
I like each one of them for what they are.
Some 3 hours and 15 minutes later, we head for shore. Ahead lies Rhinecliff and its recently shored up dock, a dock that wasn't there until a few years ago when local residents came out by the thousands to protest how run down it had become. Now there is an annual celebration here that commemorates the time 300 years ago when Dutch settlers bought this waterfront property in the now very affluent Dutchess County from the Indians, but not for $24, not for nearly as much.
Oh, it really wasn't money. It was pots and pans and axes and cows, and money didn't exchange hands.
This was Kipsbergen Day in Rhinecliff, and this was our day to find out about it, thanks to the Clearwater and its people. Now that the Clearwater has docked and all hands are safe and the passengers head for land transports, we have ended our voyage aboard the Clearwater. But stay with us. Another journey is ahead in just a moment on the river.
I would say almost half my distance.
The Clearwater spirit has influenced many lives. Hudson Riverkeeper John Cronin has a vision of a river which flows uncontaminated from its source to the sea.
Success story, despite Johnny Carson's jokes and all the bad raps the Hudson has gotten over the years. It has always been a productive river. We've had some very, very serious problems on it, but it's the story of a river that was saved.
There is still a tremendous amount of work to be done for the Hudson, but Cronin says the river does flow cleaner than it has in decades. Many of the worst polluters have been challenged and stopped. Its shores are being cleared of abandoned warehouses and empty factories, opening up room for people to come to its banks once again. The work of John Cronin.
1986, despite its problems, the Hudson's a fairly healthy river.
The Riverkeeper idea was imported from England. Robert Boyle, president of the Hudson River Fishermen's Association, came up with the Riverkeeper concept, someone who would work in the public interest, investigating sources of pollution.
Bob has a great little eloquent passage in the book that describes it, how it would work on the Hudson, which I purposely not memorized because it's too much to live up to, I'm afraid. But he talks about telling highwaymen to build a road over here instead of over there, and telling school children where the sturgeon are today, and that type of thing. And I try and do a little bit of all of that. But in the past year and a half, a majority of our effort has gone into hard-nosed investigative work, investigating sources of pollution, collecting evidence, documenting it, and then seeking prosecution or bringing lawsuits ourselves.
The whole idea behind the Riverkeeper concept is that it is supposed to be politically independent, no government support. So what authority does John Cronin have?
Authority I have, if you want to call it that, is totally a product of public support and fear of lawsuits. In 3 years, we have identified, probably, I think, a good 20, if not more, different defendants in pollution cases, including the Exxon Company, the Mobil Company, the town of Newburgh, the city of Newburgh, the town of New Windsor, Riverfront Metals here, Consolidated Iron and Metals, County of Westchester. The funny thing about it is that no matter who we go after, they always feel like they're being picked on, either because they're a little guy or because they're a big guy. Big guys are easy targets, little guys are easy to take advantage of. Everybody feels like they're being picked on. But we show no favorites. We pick on everybody.
Cronin began his river career as a commercial fisherman.
Loved it. It was a terrific way to spend your time. It wasn't a terrific way to earn money, but I enjoyed it. When I went fishing, I'd been working in government for a few years, both in Congress and the state legislature, and I just one day decided I had it up to here with institutions, and I left the legislature. I moved out of my apartment in Poughkeepsie. I moved into the back of a pickup truck, went and parked on the dock of a fisherman friend of mine, and I said, here I am, I'm ready to work. And they put me to work. I really enjoyed it. I did that for about almost 2 years, part of that time working for the Commercial Fishermen's Association.
Even with 2 decades of success behind those organizations reviving the river, there remain certain dangers.
The real danger is that our successes have made the Hudson a very inviting place to be. Everybody wants to have a boat on the river. Everybody wants to live by the river. People looking for ways to cash in on the Hudson. And that's a very big threat right now. And so the lesson we've learned is the importance of the constant vigilance. That's the price of a healthy Hudson and a clean Hudson, an attractive Hudson.
And what does the Riverkeeper see for the future of the Hudson?
This waterfront could really be the jewel of the mid-Hudson because of the extensive space there is on the riverside of the railroad tracks. Because it's an urban area, it could be a wonderful port with beautiful parkland. And you look at what's happened in New York and Baltimore and Boston and other places with their harbor areas. This waterfront could be the same. Oh, it would take a lot of money. It would be smart money, though.
Yes, John Cronin is an optimist who would like to see the Dayliner stop in this area once again, who believes this would be a great center for tour boats and parks. His involvement as Riverkeeper has inspired changes in development proposals limiting public access. He's accomplished a great deal in his 3 years, but he admits there's always more to be done.
At no time can we now or in the future get so proud of what we've done that we can put our thumbs in our lapels and say, look at us, and have a lot of pictures in our newsletters of us accepting awards and so on. I don't want to have any part of that. We've got to stay busy being vigilant.
When you think of the Hudson River, you don't bring to mind sandy beaches, tropical breezes, and cabanas by the shore. There just aren't many places one can swim in the Hudson, places where the shoreline allows anyway. But there is one place most unique, just north of Cold Spring on the east bank. It's a sandy beach, all right, but by no means does it rival Fire Island or Acapulco. And what cabanas we find are more in keeping with the eyesore category. But there is a future here, and there is a past. Michelle Clifton heads an association that knows its history.
Well, this beach, which is actually called Little Stony Point Sandy Beach, was originally property that was owned by a company that quarried rock out of it in the 30s, and it was called Little Stony Point. And at that time, boat captains who piloted boats along the Hudson River said that there was an echo when they came through Little Stony Point, and when they did the quarrying, they took the echo away, and there is no longer an echo here. But that quarrying ended up depositing some sand and tailings that helped to build up the beach, and also took away other parts of rock, and some of the outcroppings of rock that you see have actually changed because of the quarrying. But
so this is not really, in effect, a natural sandy beach?
In a sense, parts of it were and parts of it weren't, because as the river, adds some sand at some times and then takes away at other times, in certain parts it would add, but people historically say in the last 50 years, tremendous amounts were added because of the quarrying, where a lot of the beach area and an area which at some point might become parking, those were really tailings that came from the quarrying.
Though the state owns the land, and though it's illegal to enter the property and against the law to swim here, there is an effort to change that.
Initially, just to try to get money, we had to lobby the legislature, and John Cronin, the Riverkeeper, took Governor Mario Cuomo for a ride on the Hudson River last year and showed him the beach. And there were people, he says, all those people there are swimming illegally, and no one is putting any money into this. And I think directly as a result of that, he saw to it that $350,000 was part of his budget that was voted in this past April to allocate $350,000 to this beach. And we now are in the process of working with the parks people to work out a contract where we would run the beach, see to it that facilities and so forth were put in. And part of it would mean that we would have to raise money to see that we were able to, run the beach. And right now we haven't raised a lot of money. We probably just about $1,000.
What's the quality of the water here? Is it good to swim in? Is it
Well,
clean?
we have been, yes it is. We have been taking water tests for the last 2 years. We do it once a week. I'm going to do that today, take a water test, and every week it has been found to be satisfactory, which is allowable for swimming, except for 1 week, and it was right after a rainstorm that test was taken. And whenever it rains, the overflow from a lot of the sewage treatment plants gets into the river, and that then causes the coliform level to be too high to allow for safe swimming.
Now, when you take a water test, how soon afterwards do you know that the water you just tested shouldn't have been swum in or swam in? There should have been no swimming going on.
Well, it's probably, that's a very interesting question. I hadn't even thought of it before, but it probably takes about 2 to 3 days to find out that the 2 or 3 days before, hadn't been safe.
On this day, Michelle Clifton told us later, the sample of Hudson River water turned out to be satisfactory for swimming. And while the state legislature has approved the $350,000 for the beach improvement, it will be some weeks yet before the money is available. Still to be worked out is a contract between the state and the Little Stony Point Sandy Beach Association. And that's just another in the continuing reports we'll have for you right here. Thanks for coming aboard, and we'll be back next week on the river.